The fountain pen was less than an inch from the paper when Claire Bennett realized that Roman DeLuca was about to sign away everything he owned. Not merely a hotel, not merely a shipping company, everything. His homes, his corporations, his political alliances, the loyalty of his men, and the authority that had made powerful people lower their eyes whenever he entered a room. Claire sat nearly 30 feet away from him at a narrow table beside the kitchen doors. The servants' table, a silver tray blocked part of her view. A footman stood behind her with a look of quiet embarrassment, as though he understood exactly why Roman's family had placed her there but was too frightened to object. Across the enormous dining room, nearly 40 members of the DeLuca family watched Roman prepare to sign the agreement. Crystal chandeliers burned above a table carved from black walnut. Candlelight shimmered across gold plates. Dark wine. And the cold faces of men who had ordered deaths with less ceremony than they ordered dinner. Roman sat at the head of the table in a black suit. He did not look nervous. Roman DeLuca never looked nervous. He was 37 years old, feared across 3 states, and powerful enough to stop an entire harbor with a single telephone call. He wore authority as naturally as other men wore skin. His right hand rested beside the contract. His left hand remained beneath the table. Claire had noticed that he kept it there whenever he expected violence. His uncle Vittorio leaned closer to him. "Sign it, Roman. We have kept the Moretti representatives waiting long enough." A thin smile moved across Vittorio's mouth. He was in his early 60s. With silver hair, elegant clothes, and the patient expression of a priest listening to a confession. Everyone in the room called him Uncle Vittorio, even those who were not related to him. Claire had disliked him from the moment he looked at her. Not because he had insulted her, because he had assessed her. His gaze had moved over her cream-colored dress, her full figure, her inexpensive shoes, and the leather folder beneath her arm. He had not seen a woman or a professional. He had seen an obstacle small enough to remove. Roman lifted the pen. Claire looked down at the translated copy in front of her. The official English version described a partnership between DeLuca Maritime and the Moretti family. It promised shared control of 3 shipping terminals, a temporary end to their territorial conflict, and mutual protection against outside organizations. The original document told a different story. Most of it had been written in standard Italian, but 7 sentences were written in a dialect so old and regionally isolated that an ordinary translator might have assumed they were ceremonial phrases. Claire knew better. Her grandmother had spoken that dialect in the kitchen when she did not want the children to understand her. Claire had spent years studying it after her grandmother died. The 7th sentence changed everything. Claire rose from the servants' table. "Do not sign that contract." Every voice in the dining room stopped. Roman's pen remained above the paper. Vittorio turned slowly toward her, the woman seated beside him. Roman's cousin, Bianca, released a soft laugh. "Claire, I believe the household staff was instructed not to interrupt." Claire looked directly at Roman. "The English translation is false." Vittorio's expression did not change, but one of his fingers tightened against his wineglass. Roman placed the pen on the table. "Explain." Claire moved away from the servants' table. Bianca rose before she could cross the room. "You were hired to translate when requested. You were not invited to parade through a private family dinner." Claire stopped. Her face burned beneath the attention of 40 strangers. She had endured whispers when she entered the mansion. She had heard 2 women wondering why Roman had hired someone who looked more suited to carrying dessert than translating international negotiations. She had remained silent because she needed the work. She had remained silent when Bianca ordered a servant to remove Claire's place setting from the main table. She had remained silent when Vittorio told her that professional guests were expected to understand their position. But Roman was about to lose an empire. Claire raised the document. "The clause written beneath the protection agreement does not create shared control. It transfers permanent authority to the senior male representative of the DeLuca bloodline if Roman violates any condition in the agreement. Vittorio smiled. Roman is the senior male representative. No. Claire looked at Roman. The dialect does not define senior by rank. It defines senior by age. Silence spread across the room. Every face turned toward Vittorio. Roman did not move. Claire continued. If Roman signs this, his uncle becomes the legal beneficiary of every DeLuca asset listed in the attached schedules. The violation conditions include refusing a request from the Moretti family, changing a shipping route, dismissing an employee named in the agreement, or entering a marriage without approval from the senior representative. Bianca's smile disappeared. Vittorio leaned back in his chair. An imaginative interpretation from a woman who has spent too much time seeking attention. Claire opened the original document. The verb used here is not condividere. It is cedere, to surrender. The final phrase translates as body, blood, property, and obedience. It is not poetry. It is ownership. Vittorio looked toward Roman. She is mistaken. Roman's gaze remained on Claire. For the first time since she entered the mansion, she saw something beneath his controlled expression. Not gratitude. Not relief. Recognition. He had expected a betrayal. He had simply not known where it would come from. Roman closed the contract. Vittorio's voice hardened. You cannot allow a hired woman to derail an agreement that has taken years to arrange. Roman pushed his chair away from the table. The quiet movement made several armed men along the walls straighten. He walked to the empty chair beside him and pulled it out. Then he looked at Claire. Sit here. Bianca stared at him. Roman. She was seated with the staff for a reason. Roman turned his head toward his cousin. Yes. The reason appears to be that my family did not want her close enough to save me. No one answered. Roman looked back at Claire. Come here. Claire crossed the room beneath the weight of every hostile stare. When she reached him, Roman placed one hand on the back of the chair. His fingers were scarred across the knuckles. His voice remained calm. From this moment forward, nobody speaks for me except her. Claire stopped beside him. I do not speak for you. A dangerous stillness moved through the room. Roman studied her face. Claire forced herself not to retreat. I translate the truth. What you do with it is your decision. For one suspended moment, they stared at each other while his relatives waited for Roman to punish her. Instead, something almost invisible changed in his eyes. Sit beside me. Claire. This time, his voice was quieter. Not an order, a promise. Claire sat. Roman returned to his chair and turned the contract toward her. Translate every word. Vittorio rose. This dinner is over. Roman did not look at him. No. This dinner has finally become interesting. A crack split through the room. The chandelier above Roman exploded. Glass fell like shining rain. Roman moved before Claire understood the sound. He seized her around the waist and pulled her from the chair as a bullet buried itself in the wall behind them. The room erupted. Guests screamed. Tables overturned. Bodyguards drew weapons. Candlelight vanished beneath a storm of shattered crystal and dark smoke. Roman covered Claire with his body. His chest pressed against her back. One arm locked around her. His other hand held a gun she had not seen him draw. Stay down. A second bullet struck the table. Roman fired twice toward the upper balcony. A shadow disappeared behind the velvet curtains. Men rushed through the dining room. Claire's hands shook against the floor. But her mind remained fixed on the contract. The document lay beneath the fallen chair. Someone had tried to kill Roman the instant the deception was exposed. And whoever had fired the shot had been inside the DeLuca mansion. Claire reached for the papers. Roman tightened his arm around her. Leave it. They will destroy it. Another shot tore through the table. Claire stretched farther, caught the corner of the contract, and dragged it beneath Roman's body. He stared down at her. That was either brave or incredibly foolish. Claire clutched the contract against her chest. You hired me to protect the meaning of the words? Roman looked at the paper, then at the woman beneath him. The corner of his mouth did not move, but his eyes darkened with something she could not name. The balcony is clear. One of his men called. Roman rose and pulled Claire up with him. His hand remained around her waist. She could feel the controlled force in his body, the violence waiting beneath his stillness. Vittorio stood near the far wall, surrounded by guards. How unfortunate, he said. It appears the Morettis sent more than a contract. Roman looked at the bullet buried in the wall. No. He turned toward his uncle. The shot came from inside the house. The beginning. 36 hours earlier, Claire Bennett had been translating an argument between two men who both claimed they had never seen the stolen diamonds found inside their shared apartment. She sat in a small courtroom in downtown Boston, wearing a navy dress, black heels, and a headset that had stopped working twice. The defendant spoke rapidly in Southern Italian. Claire translated every word without hesitation. He says the diamonds belong to his cousin, who arrived unexpectedly from Naples and slept on the couch. The prosecutor frowned. He said much more than that. Claire looked at him. He also said the police officers were poorly dressed. The courtroom coffee tasted like burned shoes. And your tie made you look like an undertaker. None of that appears relevant to the case. Several people in the courtroom lowered their heads to hide smiles. The prosecutor looked down at his tie. Claire returned her attention to the defendant. She had worked as a court translator for nearly 8 years. Most days involved frightened immigrants, angry attorneys, complicated family disputes, and judges who believed speaking louder made foreign languages easier to understand. It was not glamorous, but words mattered to Claire. A single mistranslated sentence could cost someone money, freedom, or the right to see a child. Her grandmother had taught her that language was not merely sound. It was power. People revealed what they feared through the words they chose and what they intended through the words they avoided. Claire understood both. When the hearing ended, she packed her notes into a worn leather folder and walked into the courthouse corridor. A wall of men in black suits waited outside. They were large, silent, and positioned with the precision of soldiers. At the center of them stood Roman DeLuca. Claire recognized him immediately. Everyone in Boston recognized Roman DeLuca. His photograph appeared in business magazines beside articles about luxury hotels, shipping terminals, and private investment funds. His name appeared in quieter reports about disappearances, bribed officials, and criminal organizations that witnesses suddenly forgot how to describe. He was taller than she expected. Broad shoulders filled his black coat. His dark hair was cut short. A faint scar crossed one side of his jaw. He did not appear dangerous because he looked angry. He appeared dangerous because he did not need to. Roman watched Claire approach. Miss Bennett. His voice was deep and controlled. Claire stopped several feet from him. Mr. DeLuca. One of his men stepped forward. Mr. DeLuca requires your professional services. Claire looked at Roman. Most clients contact the translation office. I am not most clients. I noticed. Roman's gaze moved briefly to her leather folder. You translated for the Corvino hearing last month. Claire remembered the case. A restaurant owner had been accused of laundering money through imported wine. The witness spoke an unusual dialect from a mountain village in Calabria. I did. You corrected the government translator. He translated a threat as a promise. What was the difference? The speaker said he would bury the man beneath the church. The government translator said he would meet the man near the church. Roman held her gaze. That is a significant difference. It was significant to the man who nearly attended the meeting. One of Roman's bodyguards almost smiled. Roman did not. I have a private negotiation tomorrow night. The documents contain phrases from the same region. Send them to my office. They cannot leave my possession. Then bring them to the translation agency. Roman stepped closer. The corridor seemed to narrow around him. I do not conduct sensitive business in offices where strangers can listen through walls. Claire felt the attention of his guards. Most people probably agreed with Roman before he finished speaking. Claire had spent too much of her life being pushed into smaller spaces for other people's comfort. Then you will need another translator. She walked past him. Roman's voice followed her. $3,000 for one evening. Claire stopped. The amount was more than she earned in a month of court assignments. She turned back. $3,000 does not purchase my silence if I discover a crime. No. Roman approached until only a few feet separated them. It purchases your accuracy. Claire studied him. Why me? Because 2 translators have already examined the documents. And one disappeared. The other changed his translation the following morning. Claire felt cold move along her spine. Roman continued, I want someone who is either difficult to frighten or too stubborn to understand when she should be frightened. You believe I am one of those. I have not decided which. Claire should have refused. Every sensible instinct told her that entering Roman DeLuca's world was the kind of decision people regretted only if they survived it. But she remembered the Corvino hearing. The dialect Roman described was nearly extinct. Very few translators in the country understood it. If someone had deliberately hidden language inside a business agreement, they were relying on the belief that nobody would recognize it. Claire adjusted her folder beneath her arm. 4,000. One of Roman's guards raised his eyebrows. Roman looked almost offended. You negotiated after I told you someone disappeared. Danger increases my rate. For the first time, a trace of interest entered Roman's expression. 4,000. He handed her a black card with an address embossed in silver. Tomorrow, 7 in the evening. Claire accepted it. If the documents contain something illegal, I leave. Roman leaned closer, lowering his voice. Miss Bennett, if those documents contain what I believe they contain, leaving will be the most dangerous choice available to you. The mansion. The following evening, a black car collected Claire from her apartment. She considered refusing the ride until she saw the 2 vehicles following behind it. Roman had not sent transportation. He had sent a convoy. The DeLuca estate stood north of Boston behind stone walls, iron gates, and enough armed security to protect a small government. The mansion overlooked the dark Atlantic. Its windows glowed against the evening sky, while black cars lined the circular drive. Claire stepped from the vehicle wearing a cream-colored dress beneath a dark green coat. She had chosen the dress because it made her feel composed. Her former fiancé had once told her that light colors drew too much attention to her body. After their relationship ended, Claire had filled half her closet with white, gold, and red. She had no intention of making herself smaller again. Roman met her inside the entrance hall. He wore a black suit without a tie. His gaze rested on her for a moment longer than professionalism required. You are late. Claire glanced at the enormous clock above the staircase. It is 6:58. You were expected at 6:45. Your card said 7. Roman looked toward the guard who had given her the instructions. The man suddenly found the marble floor fascinating. Roman returned his attention to Claire. You came alone. You sent 6 men to collect me. They were outside the vehicle. I assumed there was not enough room inside for everyone. Roman's eyes narrowed. Do you always answer danger with sarcasm, only when danger is being unreasonable? He took her coat before a servant could reach her. The movement surprised her. Roman seemed equally displeased with himself for doing it. His fingers brushed the back of her neck as he lifted the fabric from her shoulders. The touch lasted less than a second. Claire felt it anyway. Roman handed the coat to a servant and led her through the mansion. Family portraits watched from dark wooden walls. The painted DeLuca men looked severe, proud, and incapable of forgiveness. Roman stopped outside a library. Before we enter the dining room, you will review the original agreement. Who else has seen it? My uncle. My cousin Bianca. My attorney, Gabriel Shaw. 2 translators. The missing translator and the one who changed his statement. Yes. What happened to the second man? He left the country. Voluntarily, Roman opened the library doors. He was still capable of walking when he boarded the plane. Claire stared at him. Was that meant to reassure me? No. The library contained thousands of books, a marble fireplace, and 3 armed men standing near the windows. A leather folder waited on the desk. Claire approached it. Roman remained behind her as she put on a pair of thin gloves and opened the contract. The first pages contained standard legal language. She read quickly, marking unfamiliar phrases on a separate sheet. Roman watched in silence. Claire could feel his attention moving over her face, her hands, and each change in her breathing. After several minutes, she looked back. Are you going to stand over me all evening? Yes. That will not improve my accuracy. It will improve my confidence that you do not replace the document. Claire closed the folder. You believe I might be working against you. I believe everyone might be working against me. That sounds exhausting. It has kept me alive. Claire turned toward him. Why hire me if you trust no one? Roman's expression hardened. I did not hire you because I trust you. Then why? Because the prosecutor whose translation you corrected received an anonymous payment 2 days before the hearing. Claire remained still. Roman continued. You embarrassed a man who had already been purchased. That made you either honest or very expensive. I am not for sale. Everyone says that before they see the correct price. Claire stepped closer. Then why have you not named one? Something shifted between them. Roman's gaze dropped briefly to her mouth before returning to her eyes. Because I am beginning to believe insulting you is less dangerous than tempting you. The words entered the silence like a hand moving over bare skin. Claire's pulse changed. She hated that Roman noticed. He noticed everything. The library door opened. Bianca DeLuca entered wearing a silver evening gown. She was tall, elegant, and beautiful in the polished manner of a woman who had never entered a room without expecting to be admired. Her gaze moved from Roman to Claire. I did not realize the translator required private supervision. Roman stepped away from Claire. She is reviewing the agreement. Bianca glanced at the untouched pages. Dinner is beginning. Uncle Vittorio wants Roman at the table. Claire gathered her notes. I will sit close enough to hear each speaker. Bianca gave her a pleasant smile. There has been a misunderstanding. The family table is full. Roman looked at his cousin. Add another chair. The seating arrangement reflects rank. Claire closed the folder. I can sit anywhere if I am able to hear the conversation. Honors. Bianca looked at her dress. How practical. Roman's jaw tightened. Claire saw the change and spoke before he could. The documents matter more than the chair. Roman looked at her. You should not accept disrespect simply because you can survive it. Claire met his gaze. And you should not mistake rescuing me from a chair for respecting me. Bianca's eyes widened. No one spoke to Roman DeLuca that way. Roman moved closer until Claire could smell cedar and cold night air on his clothes. What would you consider respect? Letting me do the work you hired me to do? A long silence followed. Roman took the folder from the desk and handed it to her. Then do your work. Bianca led Claire toward the servants' entrance. Roman remained in the library for several seconds, watching her leave. He told himself the anger beneath his ribs came from his family's carelessness. It had nothing to do with the fact that Bianca had looked at Claire as though her body made her less worthy of being seen. It had nothing to do with the urge to pull Claire back into the library. Lock the doors, and keep every cruel eye in the house away from her. Roman DeLuca did not protect strangers. He controlled threats. Yet as Claire disappeared through the doorway, Roman realized he could no longer decide which one she was. The hidden clause. After the gunshot shattered the family dinner, Roman ordered every gate closed. No one entered. No one left. The guests were searched and moved into separate rooms. The servants were questioned. Roman's men swept the upper balcony and found a rifle hidden behind the curtains. The weapon had been assembled inside the house. Claire stood in the library with the rescued contract pressed against her chest. Roman entered and locked the doors. A thin cut crossed his cheek where the falling chandelier had struck him. Blood moved slowly toward his jaw. Claire pointed to a chair. "Sit down." Roman looked at her as though no one had ordered him to sit in years. "I am not injured. You are bleeding on a document worth more than several countries." Roman sat. Claire found a clean cloth beside the drinks cabinet and wet it with water. When she approached, Roman caught her wrist. His grip was controlled, not painful. "What are you doing? Cleaning the cut?" "I have doctors." "Your doctors are searching for an assassin." His hand remained around her wrist. Claire could feel the heat of his palm. Roman looked at her fingers, then at her face. "You did not scream. During the shooting, yes. I was busy retrieving your contract. You could have been killed. So could you?" "I am accustomed to that possibility." Claire gently pulled her wrist from his hand. "I am not." Roman released her. She touched the cloth to his cheek. His body became completely still. Claire stood between his knees, close enough to see the faint lines of exhaustion beneath his eyes. He watched her with an intensity that made the room feel smaller. "You knew that clause would transfer authority to your uncle," she said. "I suspected the contract contained a trap." "Why did you almost sign it?" "Because I wanted to see who tried to stop me." Claire lowered the cloth. "You used yourself as bait." Roman's voice remained calm. "It worked. Someone shot at your head. They missed. Only because you pulled me beneath the table." His gaze held hers. "I was not going to allow a bullet to touch you." The statement came without emotion, which made it more unsettling. Claire stepped back. "You barely know me. I know you risked your life for a piece of paper because you believed it contained the truth. That does not explain why you protected me." Roman stood. He was close enough that Claire had to tilt her head to meet his eyes. "No, it does not." A knock sounded at the door. Roman opened it. His chief of security entered. Dante Russo was a broad-shouldered man with a scar through one eyebrow. "We found access marks on the western roof. Whoever fired the shot entered through the service stairwell." Roman looked at Claire. The stairwell beside the servants' table. She understood immediately. Whoever placed her there had positioned her directly beneath the assassin's escape route. Vittorio entered behind Dante. "Roman, we should move the family to a secure location." "They are already in a secure location." Vittorio lowered his voice. "You cannot truly believe one of us arranged this." Roman handed the blood-stained cloth to Dante. "Someone altered the contract. Someone placed the translator where she would be unable to see it. Someone opened the service stairwell. Those are several coincidences inside one family." Vittorio looked at Claire. "Or she created a false translation and arranged the attack to make herself indispensable." Claire almost laughed. "You believe I brought a rifle through 3 security checkpoints?" Vittorio's expression hardened. "I believe ambitious women have done worse for the attention of powerful men." Roman moved between them. "Be careful." The room became silent. Vittorio looked at his nephew. "She is an employee." Roman's voice dropped. "Then, treat her with the respect owed to someone under my protection." Claire looked at him. "I did not ask for your protection." Roman did not turn. "You received it anyway." Vittorio's eyes moved between them. That may be exactly what she wanted. Roman stepped closer to his uncle. "Leave the room." Vittorio's face tightened. For a moment, Claire saw hatred beneath his refined expression. Then it disappeared. Of course. After he left, Roman ordered Dante to prepare the vehicles. Claire picked up her coat. Where are we going? A safe house. You are going to a safe house. I'm going home. Roman looked at her. No. Claire folded her arms. That word appears to have served you well, but it does not control me. The assassin knows you exposed the contract. Then I will contact the police. Roman's expression became cold. Half the department attends my uncle's Christmas parties. I have friends who can protect me. The men outside your apartment this afternoon were not mine. Claire stopped breathing. Roman continued. They were watching the entrance before my drivers arrived. Why did you not tell me? Because I did not know whether they were watching you or waiting for someone you planned to meet. You thought I might be involved. I still do. Anger replaced Claire's fear. Then keep your protection. She moved toward the door. Roman caught her hand. Claire turned sharply. He released her at once. But his body blocked the exit. I do not trust you, he said. But I know you are in danger because of me. There is a difference between protection and imprisonment. Yes. Will I be free to leave the safe house? No. Then it is imprisonment. Roman leaned closer. Call it whatever allows you to hate me enough to remain alive. Claire stared into his eyes. Behind the cold authority, she saw something far more dangerous. Fear. Not fear for himself. Fear that she would walk through the door and disappear like the translators before her. Forced proximity. The safe house stood on a rocky stretch of coastline outside the city. It appeared to be an ordinary gray cottage facing the Atlantic, but the windows were reinforced. Cameras covered the property, and armed men guarded the road. Claire was given a bedroom on the second floor. Roman took the room across from hers. He could have remained at the estate while his men protected her. He did not. During the first night, Claire sat at the kitchen table translating the recovered contract. Roman stood by the window with his sleeves rolled to his forearms. A black tattoo curved beneath one cuff. It disappeared beneath his shirt before Claire could determine its shape. The agreement contains more than the transfer clause, she said. Roman turned. Claire pointed to a repeated phrase. This expression means the wolf inherits the house after the sun rejects the sea. Roman's face changed. What does it mean to your family? My father was called the Wolf of Calabria, and you are the sun. Yes. What does rejecting the sea mean? Roman approached the table. My father wanted me to expand our shipping operations. I refused because the routes were being used to move women and children. Claire looked up. Your family was trafficking people. A faction of it was. I ended the operation when I took control. What happened to the men responsible? They are no longer responsible for anything. The calmness in his voice told her enough. Claire lowered her eyes to the document. Then this agreement was written specifically for you. It predicts that the sun will reject the sea and the older wolf will inherit the house. Roman placed both hands on the table. My uncle helped raise me after my father died. You believe he arranged your father's death. I believe my father signed a document containing the same dialect 3 days before his car exploded. Claire looked at him. Did Vittorio prepare it? He claimed the document was destroyed. Roman opened a drawer and removed an old photograph. It showed a younger Roman standing beside his father on a harbor dock. Roman was perhaps 19. Already tall. Already watchful. Vittorio stood behind them with one hand on the father's shoulder. Roman turned the photograph over. A sentence had been written across the back in faded ink. Claire read it. When the sun refuses the tide, the brother will take his crown. Her stomach tightened. Who wrote this? My mother. What happened to her? Roman's face became empty. She died 6 months after my father. Claire waited. Roman did not continue. She understood that pushing him would only close the door further. Instead, she looked at the photograph. Your mother knew. She knew enough to be frightened. Why did you hire the previous translators, rather than confront your uncle? Because I needed proof. Both men betrayed me before they completed their work. And now you believe I might do the same. Roman's eyes rested on her. I am trying to believe I will betray you, trying to believe it will not matter if you do. Claire felt the weight behind the words. Roman DeLuca trusted no one, because every person he had loved had either died or chosen power over him. She should have felt only sympathy. Instead, she felt a dangerous tenderness unfolding beneath her ribs. She pushed the photograph back toward him. I cannot promise to remain in your world. Roman took it. But I can promise that I will never change the meaning of a word because someone frightens me. His fingers brushed hers. Neither of them moved. The contact was slight, but the silence around it felt intimate. Roman's gaze dropped to their hands. Then the kitchen door opened. Dante entered. Roman stepped away immediately. What happened? A man approached the northern fence. He claimed he was looking for Claire. Claire rose. Who? Dante looked at her. Julian Mercer. Claire exhaled. He is an attorney at the courthouse. He is also my friend. Roman's expression cooled. How did your friend find this house? I told my office I was leaving with Roman DeLuca. Julian probably became concerned when I missed 2 assignments. Dante placed a telephone on the table. He has called you 11 times. Claire reached for it. Roman took the telephone first. What are you doing? Determining how he found you? He is not a threat. You cannot know that. Claire stepped closer. Give me the telephone. Roman's jaw tightened. Dante quietly left the kitchen. Claire held out her hand. Roman placed the telephone in it, but he did not move away. Julian answered immediately. Claire, where are you? I have been trying to reach you since last night. I am safe. Are you with DeLuca? Roman stood close enough to hear every word. Yes. Julian's voice became sharper. Leave that house. The federal office is preparing a warrant against him. Roman's eyes narrowed. A warrant for what? Claire repeated the question. Julian hesitated. Conspiracy, extortion, and the attempted murder of a Moretti representative. Claire, listen to me. You do not know what that man is capable of. Roman looked almost amused. Claire did know what Roman was capable of. She had seen the gun in his hand before the falling glass reached the floor. But she had also felt his body covering hers while bullets crossed the dining room. I will call you when I can. Claire ended the call. Roman took the telephone. He wants you. Claire blinked. He wants to help me. Men rarely cross armed property in the middle of the night because they want to discuss friendship. Jealousy does not make you more convincing. Roman's face became unreadable. I am not jealous. Of course not. I do not become jealous of men I can remove. Claire stared at him. That is not the reassuring statement you believe it is. Roman moved closer. Do you love him? The question was quiet. Too quiet. Claire's heartbeat quickened. No. Roman's shoulders loosened almost imperceptibly. She noticed. So did he. His expression hardened as though he resented the relief. Claire folded her arms. You have no right to ask me that. I know. Then why did you? Roman looked at her for a long moment. Because I wanted the answer. The kitchen felt suddenly warm. Claire turned away first. She gathered the documents. We should finish translating. Roman watched her return to the table. He had faced gunfire with less difficulty than the thought of Claire belonging to another man. That realization disturbed him more than the hidden clause. The poisoned glass. By the second day, Claire had translated nearly half the contract. Every page revealed another layer of betrayal. The agreement granted Vittorio authority over DeLuca security personnel. It allowed him to remove Roman from leadership if Roman was deemed emotionally compromised. It even created a path for Vittorio to control the family through an arranged marriage between Bianca and the heir of the Moretti organization. But one phrase appeared repeatedly. The witness beneath the red window. Claire searched through regional dictionaries and historical texts. The phrase did not refer to a person. It referred to a place. An old church near the Boston harbor had been built by Calabrian immigrants almost a century earlier. Its eastern wall contained a large red stained glass window depicting a wolf beneath a crown. The church belonged to a charitable foundation controlled by Vittorio. Roman planned to search it that evening. Claire insisted on joining him. Absolutely not, Roman said. You need me to identify the phrases carved inside the church. I can photograph them. Dialect markings change meaning according to their placement. Roman put on his black coat. Claire stood in front of the door. I am coming. Move. No. Roman looked down at her. She was not small, delicate, or easy to intimidate. Her curves filled the doorway with a physical presence most men had tried to make her feel ashamed of. Roman felt no shame when he looked at her. Only hunger. That was precisely why he needed her to remain behind. Someone attempted to shoot you because of a translation, he said. Someone attempted to shoot both of us. I am more difficult to kill. Claire lifted an eyebrow. Is that another fact everyone is too frightened to question? Roman stepped close enough that her body nearly touched his. Do you challenge every man who tries to keep you alive, only the ones who confuse protection with control? His gaze moved slowly across her face. What would make you stay? Nothing. Money? No. A direct order. Less than nothing. His mouth almost curved. Claire saw it. Did you nearly smile? No. You did. Roman reached beside her and opened the door. Do not make me regret bringing you. Claire walked past him. You already regret meeting me. Roman followed her into the night. That was the problem. He did not. The abandoned church stood near a foggy harbor, surrounded by warehouses and rusted fences. Roman entered first with Dante and 6 armed men. Claire followed beneath the red stained glass window. Moonlight passed through the colored glass and painted dark crimson shapes across the stone floor. She found the first inscription beneath the altar. Blood opens the house. A second line had been carved behind a wooden panel. The false son kneels before the elder wolf. Roman read the translation over her shoulder. Vittorio intended to bring me here. Why? Claire moved toward the altar. There may be another message. A sound came from the balcony. Roman pulled Claire behind him. Dante raised his weapon. A woman stepped from the shadows. She wore a servant's uniform from the De Luca mansion. Claire recognized the footman's assistant who had been standing near the servant's table. Her name was Sophia. Please, she whispered. Do not shoot. Roman's men surrounded her. Sophia began speaking rapidly in the old dialect. Claire listened. Her face changed. What did she say? Roman asked. Claire looked at him. She says the wine at the safe house has been poisoned. Roman reached for his telephone. Sophia continued. Claire translated. The poison was delivered by a security officer. Vittorio ordered it. The officer believes you drink from the bottle kept in the study each night. Roman called Dante's second in command and ordered the entire house sealed. Then he looked at Sophia. Why help us? Sophia answered through tears. Claire translated more slowly. Vittorio threatened her son. He has been holding the boy inside a warehouse for 3 days. She opened the service stairwell because he promised to release him. She did not know about the assassin. Sophia handed Roman a folded paper. It contained an address. Roman ordered Dante to send men for the child. Claire watched him. He did not threaten Sophia. He did not punish her. He removed his coat and placed it around the shaking woman's shoulders. Find her son, he told Dante. No mistakes. Dante left with 4 men. Roman turned toward the church entrance. We return to the safe house now. A red light appeared on Claire's dress. Roman saw it first. He threw her to the stone floor as a rifle shot broke through the stained glass window. The church erupted in red fragments. Roman covered Claire while his men fired toward the opposite warehouse. She heard bullets strike stone. A piece of glass cut Roman's shoulder. He did not react. He dragged Claire behind the altar and pressed her against the wall. "Are you hurt?" "No." His hands moved over her arms, her waist, and her face. Searching for blood, Claire caught his wrist. "Roman, I am not hurt." His breathing was controlled, but his eyes were not. Someone had aimed directly at her. Something brutal and nearly inhuman moved through his expression. "Stay here." "Where are you going?" "To end this." Roman rose. Claire grabbed the front of his coat. "Do not walk into gunfire because you are angry." Roman looked down at her hand. He had killed men for touching him with less permission. Claire did not release him. "Dante's people can reach the warehouse. You do not need to prove that you are fearless." "This is not about fear." "Then what is it about, Roman?" Leaned toward her. "They aimed at you." The words were almost a growl. Claire's grip softened. "I am alive." This time, his gaze moved over her face. He lifted one hand as though he intended to touch her cheek. His fingers stopped less than an inch from her skin. Claire felt the absence of the touch more intensely than she would have felt the contact. Roman lowered his hand. "Stay behind the altar." He walked away before she could see what the moment had cost him. The betrayal. The shooter escaped. When they returned to the safe house, the poisoned bottle was waiting on Roman's desk. Someone inside his security team had placed it there less than an hour earlier. Roman ordered every guard disarmed and questioned. Claire went upstairs to change out of her torn dress. When she entered her bedroom, she noticed a small red light beneath the bookshelf. A camera. She stared at it. Then she found another above the window. Anger replaced exhaustion. Claire ripped the first camera from the wall and carried it downstairs. Roman stood in the security room surrounded by monitors. Her bedroom appeared on one of them. Claire placed the broken camera on the table. "You were watching me. Every room is monitored. You did not tell me there were cameras in my bedroom." Roman dismissed the guards. When they were alone, he turned off the screen. "There are no cameras in the bathroom. That is your defense. The feeds are reviewed only when a threat is detected. You imprisoned me. Questioned my friends. And watched me sleep." Roman's jaw tightened. "I was protecting you." "No. You were controlling every part of my life because control is the only language you trust." His face became cold. "The people who aimed at you tonight knew exactly where you would stand. And that gives you the right to watch me without permission. It gives me the responsibility to keep you breathing." Claire stepped closer. "You do not own my breathing." Roman's voice dropped. "I know." "Do you?" His silence answered her. Claire looked around the security room. Several monitors showed her apartment building, the courthouse entrance, and the street where she bought coffee. Her anger deepened. "How long have you been watching my home?" "Since the men appeared outside it." "You could have told me. You would have refused protection." "That was my decision." Roman struck the table with his palm. "And when someone placed a bullet through your window, should I have respected your decision while identifying your body?" The sound echoed through the room. Claire flinched. Roman immediately stepped back. He looked at her as though her fear had wounded him. Claire saw it. The fury vanished from his face, leaving something exhausted and exposed. "My mother refused protection," he said. Claire remained silent. Roman looked at the dark monitors. "She believed my father's killers would not target her. She sent the guards away because she wanted one ordinary afternoon." His voice became distant. "A car followed her from a garden store. They forced her vehicle from a bridge." Claire's anger softened, but it did not disappear. "I am not your mother." "I know." "Then stop trying to save her through me." Roman looked at her. The words reached the place he kept sealed beneath years of control. Claire continued. "Protection without trust becomes another kind of cage." Roman's voice was quieter when he answered. Trust is what killed everyone I loved. No, their betrayal killed them. Trust only gave them the opportunity to matter. A long silence followed. Roman reached toward the control panel and shut down every monitor connected to Claire's bedroom and apartment. The screens became black. You will have no surveillance inside your room. Claire watched him. And outside, I will not remove the guards. I did not expect you to. Roman turned toward her. You should. Claire shook her head. I am beginning to understand that expecting reasonable behavior from you is irresponsible. A faint breath left him. Almost a laugh. Claire looked at the cut on his shoulder. You need stitches. I have survived worse. That does not make bleeding useful. She found the medical kit and pointed to a chair. Roman sat without argument this time. Claire removed his coat and unbuttoned the top of his shirt. The glass had sliced through the fabric near his shoulder. A dark tattoo covered part of his chest. It showed a wolf standing beneath a broken crown. Claire cleaned the wound. Roman watched her hands. Does it hurt? No. You are a terrible liar. I am an excellent liar. Not with me. His gaze lifted to hers. That is becoming a problem. Claire threaded the needle. For you or for me? Roman did not answer. She began closing the wound. His body remained still, but his fingers tightened around the chair. Claire worked carefully. When she finished, she placed a bandage over the stitches. Roman reached for his shirt. Claire's fingers brushed the tattoo. The wolf from the church. My father's symbol. And the broken crown. Roman looked at her hand against his skin. Mine. Claire should have moved away. She did not. Roman covered her fingers with his hand. His palm was warm and rough. Their eyes met. The space between them filled with everything neither of them was willing to say. Claire feared him. She also trusted him enough to stand within reach of the violence everyone else avoided. Roman distrusted her. Yet she had become the only person whose presence quieted the relentless calculations inside his mind. He lifted her hand toward his mouth. A telephone rang. Roman, frozen. Claire slowly withdrew her fingers. The moment disappeared, but the hunger beneath it remained. Roman answered. Dante's voice came through the speaker. We found Sophia's son. We also found the body of the translator who disappeared. Claire went still. Roman listened. We're inside Vittorio's warehouse. Dante continued. There is something else. The dead man had a courthouse identification card in his pocket. Claire closed her eyes. The card belonged to Julian Mercer. The man at the courthouse. Julian had not crossed the northern fence because he was worried about Claire. He had come to determine how much she had translated. Dante's men found financial records linking Julian to Vittorio's foundation. For nearly 2 years, Julian had identified court translators capable of understanding the Calabrian dialect. The missing translator had trusted him. The second translator had accepted money and fled. Claire had been selected because Julian believed Vittorio could manipulate her through professional pressure. Roman read the report in silence. Claire sat across from him in the study. Julian was the person who recommended the private assignment to my office, she said. Roman's eyes hardened. He placed you directly in my house. I thought he was my friend. Roman closed the folder. Claire stared at the rain moving across the windows. She remembered every lunch Julian had brought to her desk, every case he had helped her prepare, and every warning he had given her about Roman. The betrayal did not feel dramatic. It felt humiliating. She had trusted someone who had been measuring her usefulness. Roman moved around the desk. Claire looked away. Do not. Do not what? Look at me as though I might break. Roman stopped beside her. I have never believed you were fragile. Then why are you standing as though you need to catch me because I do not know what else to do? The honesty surprised both of them. Claire looked up. Roman's face remained controlled. but his hand rested on the back of her chair as though he needed the contact. Julian knows where I live. You will not return there. Roman, no. I have a life. You had a life. Vittorio entered it and placed a target inside it. Claire rose. I will not hide forever. I am not asking for forever. How long? Until every man who knows your name is either loyal to me or unable to speak. Claire stared at him. That is exactly the kind of sentence that should frighten me. Does it? Yes. Roman stepped closer. But you are still here. Claire hated that he was right. She looked at the scar on his jaw, the exhaustion in his eyes, and the man beneath the empire. I am here because people will die if I do not finish the translation. Only because of the translation, Roman's voice was quiet. Claire's heartbeat changed. Do not ask questions when you are not prepared to hear the answer. I am prepared. No. You are prepared to control the answer. Roman lifted his hand. This time, he touched her face. His fingers moved slowly along her cheek, as though he had imagined the contact too many times to rush it. Claire did not step away. Roman's thumb rested near her mouth. Tell me to stop. She should have. Instead, she whispered his name. Roman lowered his forehead toward hers. The telephone rang again. He closed his eyes. Claire almost laughed at the cruelty of the interruption. Roman answered without moving away from her. Dante spoke from the other end. Vittorio has called a family council for tomorrow night at the Harbor Church. He claims Roman has been emotionally compromised and must surrender temporary control. Roman's hand fell from Claire's face. The contract clause. Claire moved toward the documents. If the family votes that you are emotionally compromised, Vittorio can activate the transfer without your signature. Roman's expression turned deadly. He never needed me to sign. He needed the family to witness me refusing. The dinner had been a performance. Vittorio had humiliated Claire to provoke Roman into defending her. The hidden clause had been placed where she would eventually discover it. The assassin had fired close enough to create chaos, but had failed to take a second shot when Roman was exposed. Every event had been designed to make Roman appear irrational, violent, and controlled by an outsider. Claire looked at him. I am the evidence against you. Roman shook his head. You are not evidence. Your family will say you endangered a political agreement for a woman you barely know. I endangered it because the agreement was fraudulent. They do not need the truth. They need a majority. Claire understood the next step. Then I cannot attend the council. Roman's gaze sharpened. You are not going anywhere without me. My presence will support Vittorio's accusation. Your absence will place you beyond my reach. Claire stepped closer. You cannot win this by locking me in a room. Roman looked at her with an intensity that made her breath catch. I could lock you inside a mountain and still spend every hour wondering who was trying to reach you. That is not protection. Roman, I know. His voice broke slightly around the final word. It was the first crack Claire had ever heard in him. Roman turned away. When my father died, I inherited thousands of men, dozens of businesses, and a family that smiled while calculating how soon I would fail. I learned to control every room before someone used it against me. He looked back at her. Then you entered my house, refused my money, corrected my language, challenged my orders, and walked into gunfire for a document. Claire felt tears gather behind her eyes. Roman continued, I do not know how to control what happens to me when you are in danger. You are not supposed to control it. Then what am I supposed to do? Trust me. The word hung between them. Roman stared at her. Claire extended her hand. Let me attend the council. Let me translate the original clauses in front of everyone. Vittorio will try to kill you, then protect me without silencing me. Roman looked down at her open hand. Slowly, he placed his hand in hers. It was not surrender. It was something far more difficult for him. Consent. The Harbor Church. The family council began beneath the red stained glass window at midnight. Rain struck the church roof. Black vehicles surrounded the harbor streets. Armed men stood beneath stone arches while the most powerful members of the DeLuca organization filled the wooden pews. Roman entered alone. He wore a black suit and a long dark coat. Vittorio waited beside the altar. Bianca stood near him, pale and tense. "Where is the translator?" Vittorio asked. Roman removed his coat. "Safe." Vittorio smiled. "Then you finally recognized her influence." "I recognized yours." Roman walked toward the center aisle. The family watched him in silence. Vittorio lifted a copy of the contract. Roman DeLuca has endangered a peace agreement, threatened members of his own family, imprisoned innocent employees, and executed operations without council approval. The agreement allows the senior representative to assume temporary authority when the leader becomes emotionally compromised. Roman stopped beneath the red window. "You arranged the false translation. An accusation without proof. You murdered the first translator. Another accusation. You paid the second. Still no proof." Roman looked at the armed men along the walls. Nearly half belonged to Vittorio. The council had been decided before Roman entered the church. Vittorio opened the contract. "The family will vote." A voice came from the balcony. "Only after they hear what the contract actually says." Every head turned. Claire stepped from behind the red stained glass window with Dante beside her. She wore a deep blue dress beneath Roman's black coat. Roman's expression changed. He had ordered her to enter through the eastern passage only after he confirmed the church was secure. She had arrived too early. Vittorio lifted one hand. Several guns turned toward the balcony. Roman drew his weapon. "If one man touched her, no one leaves this church alive." His voice remained calm. That made the threat absolute. Claire descended the narrow staircase. Roman moved toward her, but armed men blocked the aisle. Vittorio smiled. "Observe him. The leader of the DeLuca family is prepared to begin a war inside a sacred building because of a woman he met 3 days ago." Roman looked only at Claire. "Get behind Dante." Claire continued toward the altar. Vittorio's men seized her arms. Roman raised his gun. Claire held his gaze. "Trust me." The words stopped him. Vittorio took Roman's coat from her shoulders. "You have caused significant trouble." "Miss Bennett." Claire looked at him. "You caused it." "I merely understood the language." Vittorio brought her to the altar. "Then translate for the family." He opened the contract and pointed to the transfer clause. Claire read it in silence. Vittorio's fingers pressed against her shoulder. "Tell them it authorizes me to lead if Roman becomes emotionally compromised." Claire looked across the church. Roman stood between 2 rows of armed men, his weapon lowered but ready. The red window cast crimson light across his face. She began translating. "The clause states that leadership transfers to the elder wolf when the son rejects the sea and places his heart before his blood." Vittorio smiled. "There. You have heard it," Claire continued. "But elder wolf does not mean the oldest male member of the DeLuca family." Vittorio's smile vanished. Claire pointed to the symbol carved into the altar. In this dialect, elder describes the original bearer of the wolf mark. She looked at Roman. "His father." A murmur spread through the church. Vittorio tightened his grip on her shoulder. "Roman's father is dead." Claire nodded. "Which means the authority passes according to the next line." She turned the page. "The crown belongs to the child chosen by the first wolf, not the brother who waits beside the grave." Every eye moved toward Vittorio. Claire held up Roman's photograph. Roman's mother wrote the same words on the back of this image. Roman was named the successor before his father died. Vittorio has no claim under the original family covenant. Vittorio tore the photograph from her hand. "Forgery." Dante activated a projector. Images appeared across the stone wall. Financial records. Payments to Julian Mercer. Security logs from the mansion. Photographs of the missing translator's body inside Vittorio's warehouse. The council erupted. Vittorio drew a gun and pressed it against Claire's ribs. Roman lifted his weapon. The room became still. Vittorio pulled Claire against him. "Drop it." Roman did not move. Vittorio pressed the barrel harder against Claire's side. "You always believed your weakness would be anger." "Roman, your father believed it too." Roman's eyes remained on Claire. "You killed him. I corrected his mistakes." And my mother Vittorio's expression revealed the answer before he spoke. She understood too much. Something inside Roman disappeared. His face became empty. Claire knew that emptiness, it was the final silence before violence. Vittorio whispered near her ear, "Tell him to order his men outside." Claire looked at the inscription beneath the altar. A second meaning existed within the words. The old dialect allowed a speaker to change the direction of a sentence by altering one vowel. Claire spoke to Roman in English. He says, "You must send your men outside through the eastern door." Then she repeated the sentence in the Calabrian dialect, but she changed the vowel. Roman understood only fragments. Dante understood none of it. Sophia did. She stood among the servants near the rear wall. Her face changed. Claire had actually said the weapon behind the elder wolf is empty. Sophia looked toward Dante and slowly raised 3 fingers. The code passed silently through Roman's men. Vittorio had taken the gun from Bianca's purse. Claire had watched Bianca remove the ammunition earlier when Vittorio was speaking to the council. Vittorio tightened his arm around Claire. "Order them out." Roman lowered his weapon. For the first time, fear entered Vittorio's expression. He had expected resistance. Roman placed the gun on the floor. "Release her." Vittorio smiled. "You finally learned obedience." Roman's eyes remained on Claire. "No." His voice softened. "I finally learned trust." Claire drove her heel into Vittorio's foot and twisted away. Vittorio pulled the trigger. The gun clicked. Roman moved. He crossed the distance before Vittorio could reach for another weapon. Roman struck him once and drove him against the altar. Gunfire erupted from the side aisles. Dante pulled Claire behind a stone column as Roman's loyal men confronted Vittorio's guards. The church filled with shouting, smoke, and exploding wood. Claire saw Bianca crouched beneath a pew. A man raised a gun toward her. Claire ran from behind the column and pushed Bianca down as the shot struck the wooden railing. Dante fired back. Roman fought his uncle near the altar. Vittorio produced a knife from his sleeve and slashed across Roman's side. Roman did not retreat. He caught Vittorio's wrist and drove him against the red window. Glass trembled above them. Vittorio laughed through broken breath. "You think she loves you. She will leave the moment she understands what you are." Roman looked toward Claire. She stood beneath the balcony, surrounded by gunfire, helping the same woman who had humiliated her at dinner. Roman turned back to his uncle. "She already understands." He broke Vittorio's wrist. The knife fell. Vittorio reached for a pistol hidden beneath the altar. Roman fired once. The shot echoed through the church. Vittorio collapsed beneath the image of the wolf and crown. The remaining guards lowered their weapons. Roman stood over his uncle. Blood darkened his shirt where the knife had cut him. Claire pushed through the smoke. "Roman." He turned at the sound of her voice. The cold violence vanished from his eyes. He crossed the ruined church and caught her face between his hands. "Are you hurt?" "No." He examined her arms, her shoulders, and her dress. Claire placed her hands over his. "I am safe." Roman's breathing broke. He pulled her against his chest. The embrace was not gentle. It carried every moment he had imagined losing her, every body he had failed to protect, and every feeling he had tried to deny. Claire held him. Roman buried his face against her hair. "I heard the trigger." His voice was rough. "I knew the gun was empty." "I did not." Claire tightened her arms around him. But you trusted me. Roman drew back. His hands remained on her face. I will never make that mistake again. Claire stared at him. Roman almost smiled. Next time. Tell me before someone points a weapon at you. Claire touched the blood at his side. There will not be a next time. Roman looked toward the armed men, shattered glass, and burning candles. There is always a next time. Then we should establish better communication. His eyes returned to hers. Claire hesitated. Roman became completely still. She understood how much power he had placed inside that single word. Yes. Roman. He kissed her. There was nothing soft about the first moment. His mouth met hers with the desperation of a man who had survived an execution and discovered that survival was no longer enough. Then he slowed. One hand moved to the back of her neck. The other settled carefully at her waist. As though even in hunger, he remembered that her trust was not something he could seize. Claire kissed him back. The ruined church disappeared around them. For several seconds, there was no empire. No contract, no bloodline, and no war. There was only the dangerous man who had spent his life controlling every emotion and the woman who had taught him that devotion could not exist without surrender. The choice Roman survived the wound. Vittorio's death ended the immediate threat, but it did not erase the damage he had created. Several De Luca businesses were investigated. Politicians who had accepted Vittorio's money began releasing information. Rival organizations tested Roman's weakened defenses. Roman answered each challenge with the same cold precision that had made him feared. He closed the remaining trafficking routes. He removed every official who had worked for Vittorio. He transferred several shipping companies into legitimate international partnerships. He did not become innocent. Claire never asked him to pretend. She asked questions that no one else dared to ask. She challenged decisions that relied on fear rather than necessity. She refused to translate threats disguised as negotiations. Roman hated being corrected. He also refused to attend a meeting without her. Claire returned to her courthouse work after several weeks. Roman objected. Claire ignored him. 2 black vehicles followed her to the courthouse each morning. She objected. Roman ignored her. Their compromise involved 1 vehicle and a driver who remained across the street. Julian Mercer was arrested after attempting to flee the country. He offered evidence against several of Vittorio's allies in exchange for protection. Claire visited him once. He tried to apologize. She listened, translated nothing, and left him with the silence he deserved. Bianca also came to see Claire. They met at a quiet restaurant near the harbor. Bianca wore black. I was cruel to you, she said. Claire waited. Bianca lowered her eyes. Vittorio taught us that weakness could enter the family through anyone who did not belong. I believed humiliating you was a way to protect Roman. You believed my appearance made me easy to dismiss. Bianca's face reddened. Yes. Claire took a slow breath. I can understand how someone taught you to be cruel. Understanding does not require me to excuse it. Bianca nodded. I know. She left without asking for forgiveness. Claire respected her more for that. Roman waited outside the restaurant beside his car. He wore a dark coat, and snow gathered across his shoulders. Claire stopped in front of him. You were watching through the window. I was observing the street. Your face was turned toward my table. There could have been a threat near your table. Bianca was crying. Tears can conceal weapons. Claire shook her head. You are impossible. Roman opened the car door. Yet you continue to return. Claire looked at him. She had kept a separate apartment. Roman had given her keys to the De Luca estate. Neither of them discussed how often she slept there. Their relationship remained dangerous, complicated, and filled with boundaries. Roman tested while Claire redrew them. He never entered her room without permission. He never placed surveillance inside it again. When Claire woke from nightmares about the church, Roman sat outside her door until she invited him inside. Sometimes he held her. Sometimes he said nothing. He was still feared by everyone else. With Claire, he learned that silence could be an offering rather than a weapon. 6 months after the Harbor Council, representatives from the DeLuca and Moretti organizations gathered at the restored mansion. A new agreement waited on the black walnut table. The chandeliers had been replaced. The bullet marks remained hidden beneath fresh wood. Roman entered with Claire beside him. His family watched them approach. A chair had been placed at the servants' table near the kitchen. Claire noticed it. Roman did too. He stopped. Every person in the room became silent. Roman looked at the chair beside his own. It was empty. He pulled it out for Claire. "Sit with me." Claire looked toward the servants' table. One of the young interpreters hired by the Moretti delegation had been placed there. She appeared nervous and embarrassed. Claire walked across the room and brought the young woman to the main table. Roman watched her add another chair beside them. No one objected. The Moretti representative pushed the agreement toward Roman. "Everything has been translated and approved." Roman picked up the pen. Then he looked at Claire. "Have you read it? Every word. Is it accurate?" "Yes." Roman placed the pen against the paper. The room waited. Claire rested her hand over his. Roman looked at her. "What is wrong?" "Nothing." "Then why are you stopping me?" Claire smiled. "I wanted to see whether you would sign without me." Roman set the pen down. "Never." Several family members exchanged glances. Claire leaned closer. "That is not healthy, professional behavior. You stopped being only my translator a long time ago." The Moretti representative cleared his throat. Roman ignored him. Claire lowered her voice. "What am I now?" Roman's eyes held hers. "The only person in this room whose absence would make the empire meaningless." Claire's breath caught. Roman reached into his coat. The room became completely still as he placed a small velvet box beside the contract. Claire looked at it. Roman DeLuca did not kneel. He had told her once that men who knelt in his world rarely stood again. But in front of his family, his soldiers, his enemies, and every person who had once treated Claire as though she did not belong beside him. Roman lowered himself to one knee. Claire covered her mouth. Roman opened the box. Inside rested an old gold ring with a small green stone. It had belonged to his mother. "I spent most of my life believing love was a weakness other people could use against me," he said. His voice remained calm. But Claire saw the tension in his hands. "Then you entered my house and proved that fear was the weakness. Love was the reason to survive it." Tears filled Claire's eyes. Roman continued, "I will not promise you an ordinary life. I do not know how to become an ordinary man." A few quiet smiles appeared around the table. Roman looked only at her. "I can promise that you will never be placed behind me, beneath me, or outside any door I enter. You will stand beside me. You will speak when I am wrong. You will leave when you choose and return because you choose." Claire knelt in front of him. Roman's expression changed. She touched his face. "You are still attempting to control the entire proposal. I prepared carefully." "Of course you did." Claire looked at the ring. Then she looked into the eyes of the man who had once trusted no one enough to lower his weapon. "Yes." Roman exhaled as though he had been holding his breath since the night they met. He placed the ring on her finger. Then he kissed her while the most powerful people in the city watched. Months later, Claire stood with Roman on the mansion terrace as morning light moved across the Atlantic. The world below them was quiet. Inside the mansion, a new generation of translators was preparing for negotiations. Claire had founded a legal language institute funded by Roman's legitimate companies. The institute trained translators to recognize manipulation hidden inside contracts, testimony, and diplomatic agreements. No translator would ever again disappear because powerful men believed language belonged only to them. Roman approached behind her. His arms moved around her waist. Claire leaned against his chest. "You have a meeting in 10 minutes?" she said. "They can wait." The representatives came from 3 countries. Then they have traveled far enough to develop patience. Claire smiled. Roman rested his chin near her hair. He had not become gentle. He remained dangerous, possessive, and capable of terrifying decisions. But his protection no longer felt like a cage. It felt like a door he held open while allowing Claire to decide whether she entered. She turned in his arms. "Do you remember the first thing you said to me, Miss Bennett? After that, I told you I was not like most clients. You were correct." Roman brushed his thumb across her engagement ring. "Do you regret accepting the assignment?" Claire pretended to consider the question. The hours were unreasonable. The workplace contained gunfire. Several members of management attempted murder. Roman lowered his face toward hers. "And the compensation, inadequate. I gave you an empire." Claire looked into his eyes. "I did not want your empire. What did you want?" "The truth." Roman touched his forehead to hers. "And what did you find?" Claire smiled. "A frightened man hiding inside a terrifying one." Roman's arms tightened around her. "That translation remains confidential." Naturally, he kissed her slowly as sunlight spread across the water. Inside, the representatives waited beside an unsigned agreement. One of Roman's men appeared at the terrace doors. "Mr. De Luca, they are asking whether the signing can begin." Roman did not release Claire. "Tell them no." The man hesitated. "What reason should I give?" Roman looked at the woman in his arms. "Tell them I refuse to sign without her." Claire shook her head, laughing softly. Then she took Roman's hand and led the most feared man in the city back toward the waiting table. Not behind him. Not beneath him. Beside him, where she had always belonged.